Councillor Harrison, if you can sort the clock out for us at the back, because no one else can reach it. I apologise, Councillor Harrison, but there you go. Before we do start this afternoon's proceedings, I would just like to welcome Olivia, who is doing some work experience for us. She comes from the area, but is studying at Newcastle University. Welcome, Olivia. She's met quite a few people. Glad to have you here today. Thank you. Right, good afternoon. It is just past 2 o'clock. My name is Councillor Paul Fellows. I'm the Chairman of the Council. We're not expecting the fire alarm to sound this afternoon. If the alarm does go off, please leave the building by the nearest available exit. The assembly point is on the green in front of SK House. I'd like to begin by welcoming all councillors and officers and the members of the press and public who are joining our meeting today. I'd also draw your attention to the fact that the meeting is being recorded. Any councillor who wishes to speak should press the button on their microphone. A green light will signal that you are in the queue. I will call councillors to speak in the order in which they appear on the list. Please do not press your button again. If your light is green, this will take you out of the queue. When it is your turn to speak, I will call your name and the Democratic Service team will ensure your microphone is live. They will also turn your microphone off when you have finished speaking. You will not be able to turn your own microphone on or off. This will be done for you. The button on your microphone will only allow you to join or remove yourself from the list of councillors requesting to speak. Members are also reminded that when speaking, comments should be addressed through the chair and members should speak clearly into their microphone. Members are also reminded that when the chairman starts to speak, you are to stop speaking and be seated. The length of time for speeches remains 5 minutes. You will be warned when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. Throughout this meeting, we will be voting by a show of hands. The only occasions we will be using a roll call vote will be if a recorded vote is requested. The rules of debate are set out in the Constitution, but here's a brief reminder. A member may speak once on motions and once on each amendment that is put. Other than exercising a right of reply at the end of debate on a substantive motion or an amendment. The only time a member may speak a second time is to raise a point of order, point of information or point of personal explanation. Points of orders may only relate to an alleged breach of the council procedure rules or the law. Any councillor who wishes to raise a point of order must indicate the rule or law and the way in which they consider it has been broken. A point of information provides any councillor with the ability to intervene should they believe another councillor is providing the council with incorrect information, thereby saving the council from being misled and saving time. A point of personal explanation may only relate to some material part of an earlier speech made by the councillor which may appear to have been misunderstood during debate. We will now begin to work our way through today's agenda. Agenda item 1, public open forum. May I ask the Democratic Service Manager to confirm whether any questions have been received from members of the public?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we've got 3 members of the public. I understand one of them may not be here yet, so I don't know, with your permission, Chair, whether he'd be held to last. That's Nigel Evely. And we've also got some representation from the Tamil community in South Kesteven and also Karen Oliver. Thank you, Chairman. So I don't know whether you want to take the Tamil community first, Chairman.
Seems a logical way. So, could I invite, please, the Tamil community to come down to the microphone and make their statement, ask their question. When you get there, sir, your microphone will be switched on for you. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My question here to the Councillor Paul Fellows, Chairman of SKTC. We, the Tamil Communication Lincolnshire, together with Tamil School Lincolnshire, representing various aspirations of Tamils living in South Kesteven, are fully supporting individually and collectively to proclaim and declare the month of January as the Tamil Heritage Month in South Kesteven, in recognizing the Tamil language, Tamil art, Tamil culture, Tamil food, Tamil history, Tamil personalities, and many more. Our community was started in 22nd October 2023 and celebrated our first ever Tamil Heritage Month in January 2024. At the moment, we are using Harrowby Lane Methodist Church in Grantham for our weekly community gathering. We have members from across South Kesteven and wider Lincolnshire who travel hours to attend our community gathering. We, as Tamil community, would like to invite Chairman of SKDC, Councillor Paul Fellows, for our Tamil Heritage Festival, which is called Pongal, in the month of January. We will soon share the invitation with Councillor Matthew Bailey. We hope he will accept and welcome him to our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement and question. It's an absolute pleasure to meet yourself representing the Tamil community. I cannot imagine there would be a reason why I would not be able to accept your invitation as long as it's done correctly and through the Chairman's office. When that arrives, I will almost certainly respond positively. Really nice to meet you. If I can thank you for the work you're doing with your community. Every single one of our communities in the diverse community that is South Kesteven is welcomed and hopefully will be supported by us at South K. Do you have another question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have further question to the leader of the council. We hope that the council can support our Tamil community, which helps connect and bring more people together. Will Councillor Ashley Baxter, the leader of South Kesteven District Council, support us by thanking the Tamil community for their contribution to the South Kesteven and our country? Help us to highlight the celebration of Pongal and use the communications channels of the council to raise awareness of our group. Thank you.
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm really pleased that you've been able to come along this afternoon. So thank you to Halan, Kalyani and Sanjivan for coming along to the meeting. It's really good to see you, as it is all communities. I have no hesitation in thanking the Tamil community for their contribution to the life of SKDC. I'm also grateful to Councillor Bailey for bringing this to my attention before the meeting and explaining a little bit about the Tamil community and the circumstances in South Kesteven. I'm delighted that Harrowby Lane Methodist Church are offering you a venue to be together, and I think it is a real opportunity. So no hesitation in helping to highlight the celebration of Pongal and using our communications to promote a part of our community. We have a strong, rich community with many diverse communities within it. I had a really good evening out at the invitation of Councillor Harrison and the Nepalese community, and we also have communities across South Kesteven, and we can celebrate them all. We do, in addition to the things you've asked for, with Council's permission, I understand that the particular day of Pongal is January the 14th. I would suggest that we fly the Tamil flag on that day from the flagpole for a single day as part of promoting the Tamil community in South Kesteven. So if that's acceptable to all, then that's what I'd like to offer. So thank you once again for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I know Councillor Bailey has worked with the Tamil community and knows them really well. Councillor Bailey has submitted a motion without notice, which is I'm going to allow him to talk about for a minute. We will then vote on it. There will be no discussion, so please listen to Councillor Bailey. This has been seconded by Councillor Rayside, and then we'll vote accordingly. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chairman. You kind of proceeded what I was going to say. As per 11.12 of the Constitution, I'd like to propose a motion without notice. Before I do that, with the Chairman's permission, I would like to give some background to the request. I would like to thank Helen for speaking today. I've been working with the Tamil community since they invited me to their first Pongal celebration last year alongside Councillor Whittington as Mayor's Grantham. It was a truly humbling, warming occasion and one I certainly will never forget. Since then, I have kept in contact with the Tamil community. I have watched them grow as a group and attended the Harrowby Lane Methodist Church to see children learning the Tamil language and watch them take part in cultural dances. As councillors, it's our duty to support and nurture new organisations to help them flourish in any way we can. Today, I hope we have shone a light on a community group I'm sure 90% of you had no idea existed before today, but I am sure many members of that group live in many of your wards. I am very aware we have many fantastic groups across our districts. Only last week I helped celebrate Diwali with the D-Card group alongside Councillor Rayside and Councillor Harrison. And as the leader mentioned, I recently saw photos of the leader and other councillors celebrating with the Nepalese community. What great culture, what great community, what great people, what a great South Kesteven we live in. But there's also more awareness we can do. So today I've written to Richard Wiles, as Deputy Chief Executive, requesting to create a new section on our website to promote our broad and inclusive communities, to allow our residents to find groups from a central place or community hub. I therefore would like to propose a motion to read as: to request a verbal update to be provided to the communities and rural OSC at the next suitable meeting from the Cabinet Member for Communities and Rural on our community group awareness across South Kesteven. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Rayside, very briefly?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Bailey, for amending the motion, and I'm happy to second this motion as the Cabinet Member for Community and People. I'm happy also to support the Tamil community and all of our communities that are a part of our district. I think everyone can agree that as a council, it is our responsibility and privilege to support and uplift all of the community groups that contribute to the fabric of our district. And by working together as a cross-party, then we're more cohesive. And we do a better job at representing all of those who live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Thank you, Councillor Rayside. We're now going to go straight to a vote. I hope you're all able to hear or have in front of you Councillor Bailey's proposal. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? That carried accordingly and unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Bailey. To continue, I think finally, we have a question from Karen Oliver from Helping Hands. If Karen is here, could I ask you to make your way to the microphone, please? Thank you, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Oliver from Helping Hands Grantham. It's a new community group set up in Grantham to help people with the cost of living, but we now find ourselves helping people that are homeless. Can the Cabinet Member from Housing confirm the numbers of homeless people in Grantham at a given period of time, e.g. July 2024, and how these numbers are calculated?
Sorry, I think you're going to answer this question, Councillor Moran. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to. What I've got actually is a 6-month period from May to October 24. I think before I go through the numbers, it's important to highlight that the term homeless is far wider than just rough sleepers. We deal with what is termed as the invisible homelessness, where individuals and families are homeless or threatened with homelessness. And all this data is taken directly from our system. So the number of active homelessness applications in July 24 was 299. It ranged from 329 in May down to 275 in August and September. The number of new homelessness approaches during that month in July was 204. That again ranged from 154 in September to July, which was the highest at 204. This resulted in the following numbers who were put in temporary accommodation. In July 24 it was 62. The lowest was September, which was 48 and 24, and again July was the highest month. It looks like there's a very large disparity between the amount of people registering as possibly homeless compared to how many people we actually house in temporary accommodation. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'll give you an example of one which happened in my ward in the last few weeks. A resident got in touch with me. She was in private rented accommodation and had received a Section 21 notice. This had been preceded within the space of about 48 hours of the landlord ringing her to tell her he was selling the property, so she would need to move out, a valuer coming round, and a board being put up outside her house, a for sale board, which was immediately overlaid with sold, which is enough to strike terror in anyone's bones if you're a private renter. She came to me for advice. I spoke to our homeless officers. They had, I discussed her circumstances, the fact that she was ex-services, she had PTSD and possible paranoia, she was a single mother. They had a look at the Section 21 notice to check that it was all valid, because landlords have very strict rules and regulations on how they can evict a tenant. They also looked at her lease, and over the space of a few days it was established that the lease didn't provide the landlord with that power to evict her. So he was quite at liberty to sell the property, but he had to sell it with a sitting tenant. However, she's now on the choice-based letting system, but that landlord cannot evict her until her lease runs out, which is in January 26. So she's got plenty of time to look for suitable alternative accommodation. There's also obviously a strict process when a Section 21 notice is issued, in that the tenant has 56 days if it's been issued correctly, and thereafter the landlord still has to go to court and obtain an eviction notice. So, but she registered as homeless, and anybody who's received a Section 21 notice could span 3 months. But the service we offer is we register as possibly homeless, and then we go through with them and help them get alternative accommodation. And 9 times out of 10, we succeed in either putting their minds at rest, giving them the information that they need to contest the notice. So it's very wide-ranging. And the second half of the question was, how do we calculate these? They're from what's on our register. As soon as somebody notifies us that they're possibly going to be homeless, on the go, and we start the entire process. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a supplementary question to ask? Please ask it now.
Helping Hands deals with street homeless. The SKDC, knowing the number of street homeless population in the Grantham district area, only called the severe weather emergency protocol, the SWEP, on Tuesday morning, even knowing we had vulnerable people living on the streets. Other districts like Peterborough, who had warmer weather, called their SWEP during Monday when the severe weather warning was called. The SKDC has failed on multiple separate cases, which we have already provided evidence that they seem uninterested in. The SKDC has stated that negative feedback or criticism of the SKDC is unhelpful, and these messages will be removed, and users who criticise the SKDC will be banned from making any other further comments. We have seen firsthand the mismanagement of homeless cases. Some who are most...
Excuse me, could you ask a particular question, please? You seem to be going round. Thank you.
So we have finished mismanagement of homeless cases, some who are most vulnerable. Helping Hands Grantham wants to work with SKDC to help support and improve the community services. My question is, would the councillors agree that the council should refer itself to a regulator for a proper public investigation into the numerous cases of the council failing homeless people in Grantham?
Councillor Moran, can you answer that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to stand corrected, but I'm not sure there is a governing body which covers how we deal with homeless people. Can I ask the Director of Housing if she's any more aware than I am?
Alison? No? That's you, sorry.
No, I'm not the Director of Housing, but clearly. The regulator, of course, is there to understand the consumer standards and regulate on the consumer standards. And, of course, we're all very aware of the regulatory notice this Council was under that was released on the 24th of October in 2023. The team continue to work with the regulator. I meet with the regulator, and this is when they do their next inspection, they would look at everything to do with this as an organisation. Homelessness may be an area that they want to look at, but it isn't the primary areas. The primary areas are to do with compliance, and as the Housing Scrutiny Committee know, that the housing compliance is more or less all at 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Exec. Thank you for your question. I'm sure that if you contact Councillor Moran directly, she'll be more than happy to discuss any issues you have. Thank you for your time. I understand that Mr Eversley hasn't arrived, so I'm going to leave that question where it stands. We will not be addressing it today and bring the public open forum to a close. Thank you all who have come and asked questions. Thank you to councillors who've provided very fulsome explanation. Councillor Moran?
Yeah, sorry, is it possible for Mr Eversley's questions to be read, as we've had them in advance?
No, I would rather make a ruling we didn't, but yeah, that's the ruling I'm going to make. Yeah. Councillor Baker?
To commit that I will be writing a written response to Councillor Eversley, and I will publish that for anybody who is interested, as that question was under my portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. A very excellent response to that question. We're now going to move on to agenda item 3, disclose. Oh, thank you. It's not every day that Chief Exec brings you a drink. Buys you a drink. Oh, yes. And also, I've jumped over an agenda item. So, agenda item 2, apologies for absence. James, do we have any apologies today?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we've received apologies from Councillor Nick Robbins, Councillor Penny Robbins, Councillor Ian Stokes, Councillor David Bellamy, Councillor Morgan and Councillor Trollope Bellew are running late and hope to join us. Okay, there you go. I think that's it, Chairman, unless there's any more from the Chair. Oh, sorry, and Councillor Shorrock. Thank you, Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, James. Right, I know I jumped forward to this one, but I can get there now. Agenda item 3, disclosure of interests. And I'm very grateful for the glass of water because I think my voice was giving out. Members are reminded that a disclosable pecuniary interest should be declared in those circumstances whereby there is a direct impact relating to those items listed on their register of interests. For example, this will include employment, trade or profession, as well as any contracts or licences held with the council. This also includes any land owned or rented in the district by the member or their partner. Members should also consider whether they have any other registrable interests or non-registrable interests that would need declaring at the meeting in accordance with the Council Code of Conduct. Once you have declared an interest, you should leave the meeting and not speak or vote on the debate. You are entitled to speak in the same capacity as a member of the public in respect of other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, but must leave the chamber immediately after doing so. If any member has any interests that they need to disclose, please indicate them now. Thank you. If during the debate it becomes clear to you that you have a disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest in an item, you can declare it at the relevant point in the meeting. We will now proceed with the next item of business, which is minutes of the previous meeting. This item is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of September 2024. Any correction should be regarding the accuracy of the substance of the minutes, not typographical errors which should have been raised with the Democratic Services team when the minutes were published. If you wish to make any further corrections to the minutes, could you please indicate that now? Thank you. May I get a proposer for the 26th of September 2024 set of minutes? Thank you, Councillor Bishnow Singh. And a seconder? Councillor Stoke. Thank you. Stoke. I avoided calling you first because I couldn't remember your second name, Elvis, but we have that. So, could I have all in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item 5, communications, including the chairman's announcements. From my perspective, I've had a very busy month and a half. Some of it has been, well, all of it has been wildly interesting. Some of it deeply, profoundly moving, especially around Remembrance Weekend. And I know that fellow councillors join me in I was going to say celebrations. They're not celebrations, but you understand precisely what I mean. You have my list of engagements in front of you. Can I also remind you of my Christmas lunch, which is coming up? It would be lovely to see you there if you can make it and you want to join us. It'll be full of Christmas jollity and hopefully a lot of fun. Please come if you can. It'd be lovely to see you there. Are there any announcements from the Leader of the Council, individual Cabinet members or the Head of Paid Service? As a reminder, there's no debate on announcements. Councillor Stokes.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to give an update regarding a question that was asked at last month's meeting regarding Bourne Wave Machine. Regarding the wave machine at Bourne Leisure Centre, I was informed that the repair works to reinstate it had been completed. They have not been completed due to the complex bespoke nature of the control panel and will not be completed, unfortunately, until the new year. I can confirm that there have only been 3 complaints since the wave machine was taken out of action, and the numbers at swimming have actually increased, so it hasn't had a major negative impact.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to announce that contracts to be exchanged on the former Cummings site at St Martin's Park in full conformity with the decision taken at full council at our February meeting. I'm also pleased to announce that the Planning Committee has approved the planning application for the additional 140 spaces to be created at Stamford's Cattle Market car park, and we hope to appoint a contractor shortly following a tender process. And finally, I'm happy to report that work has begun on site to construct our new depot in Grantham, and an update on the project has been published for discussion at scrutiny next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Trotter. Oh, apparently you're not allowed, Councillor Trotter. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see everybody again. I never expected when I was elected to this body that my life would revolve around waste and bins, and I would get genuinely excited about the topic. But I hope that I can trickle a little bit of that excitement down to all of you, because I am delighted to announce that the waste services at South Kesteven District Council have been nominated as finalists in the APSE Most Improved Waste Collection Award. There will be a full awards ceremony on the 4th of December, where we keep our fingers crossed for the moment where that envelope is revealed. And I'm sure that I speak for everybody in this chamber that we are incredibly grateful for the work that our bin crews do, particularly in the particularly Arctic weather that we're experiencing at the moment. Slips and trips are almost inevitable at this time of year. And for the hard work that goes on behind the scenes in the depot that perhaps isn't recognised quite as readily. You don't see them ticking away at it, but our heads of service, Kay, and our operational manager, Reese, not me, do an absolutely fantastic job, and this is testament to their hard work over months and months and months. So thank you for listening to that one, and if you see any of our bin crews around, thank them as well.
Thank you, Councillor, and obviously the support for our colleagues who do those jobs is absolutely there all the time. Councillor Rayside.
Thank Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank the team first for their community awards. They've done an outstanding job. I'd also like to thank the members who've attended and the attendees and the awardees. On another note, we have a consultation present, and it's live, the Air Quality Action Plan, so I encourage members to engage. And on a final note, the lights are going to be switched on in Stamford this evening at 5:30, and Craig Revel-Horwood will be turning the lights on. So that I mentioned that last bit in my dual hat.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. Good news from Cabinet members generally. Craig Revel-Hall, he was the guy that sat at the end of the row and used to criticise what people were doing. Lot to learn from him. I've stood up with my economic development portfolio holder hat on to say St Mary Street in Stamford has been named as the best for independent shopping in the UK by American Express Shop Small campaign. I think that's fantastic news. Credit to all the independent shopkeepers in Stamford. Credit to the people at the Stamford Arts Centre, which is very nearby and adds on the same street, on St Mary Street. And Stamford, as we know, is a great place to be, with a thriving market on a Friday and a Saturday, and all our towns should be celebrating their independent shops, but this national recognition for Stamford is something to be proud of.
Thank you, Councillor. Another bit of good news. I've also been reminded to tell you or ask you that if you are coming to my Christmas lunch, which let's face it is most of you, can you please pay if you're able? Which is, and if you're not, we know where you live. You can see Josh and Amy downstairs. Thank you very much for that. I'm now passing to, if there's no more announcements, agenda item 6. Which is proposed amendments to the Council's constitution. They are: a full Council approves the amendment to the Council Procedure Rules in Part 4, Rules of Procedure of the Constitution, to be amended as set out in paragraph 3.3 of the report, to allow use of the electronic voting system in the Council chamber. 2. Approves the amendment to Article 9 in Part 2, Articles of the Constitution, to reflect that externally appointed co-opted members do not have voting rights on the Governance and Audit Committee. I understand Councillor Knowles is speaking to this one. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I first of all make a small amendment to the first of those paragraphs? Because it says approves the amendment and it says it's set out in paragraph 3.3. But anybody who's read it will see that it's set out in paragraph 3.4. The actual proposal in heavy type is in 3.4. Broadly, you've all had an opportunity to see the proposed electronic voting system in action. It has been brought to several committees in the past and over the recent time, and now the proposal is that we give the Council the opportunity to use that system. You will see that it gives them the opportunity. It doesn't say specifically when and if it should be used, but it gives the chairman of a meeting the opportunity to decide whether voting would be by hands, in certain circumstances clearly by a recorded vote, or use the system itself. So the chairman has the decision to make whether it is used, and hopefully it should save time, and it should be super accurate, which is not to say that the efforts of Graham is not super accurate when he does count manually, but the system apparently can count up to 56. Anyway, I propose the first part of that. I want to take the two as separate and get a vote, if you would, on the two, because they are completely different items. So I ask the Chair to open the debate on the first part of it first, and then take the second part, and I'll introduce that separately, if I may. Thank you.
Eminently sensible. Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Moran, do you wish to speak? Or what? So could we have discussion on the first part of this proposal? That's number one. Anyone wish to speak? Councillor Gill?
My understanding was there was going to be a demo of this today. I think a number of us showed up for that demo, but it didn't actually happen. And we were told that the meeting was going to be suspended and it was going to happen in the meeting. Because I think quite a lot of people in the room have still not seen this. Thank you.
Are you going to answer this one, Graham?
Thank you, Jimmy. Yes, the demonstration was supposed to take place at 22, but there weren't that many people in the chamber, and it was agreed it wasn't necessary at that time. Chairman, if you want to do a demonstration, I'd probably recommend that you adjourn the meeting to allow us to just undertake a very quick demonstration of the system. Thank you.
That seems a logical thing to do. I adjourn the meeting and we'll have a demonstration. Does that need... I take it that just doesn't need a vote on. We've done it. Adjourn the meeting, we'll have a demonstration. No, I didn't get a seconder for the second part. I did, yes. So we're now in debate on the first part of the motion. Councillor Lebanon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The information, when it comes up on the board, I noticed on the demonstration that both myself and Pam's name weren't on there, even though we pressed our buttons. Where's the information gathered in from? Where you're registering into the building, or is it preset? It's all preset. It just worried me there that we weren't on that list. And nor was Jane. And I'm just thinking, is it fully tested that it might not register some votes? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I was told it may have been off the page, but assured that it would be the case. Councillor Turner.
Just as a test, because I've got an empty desk next to me, I voted twice in that last one, so you might have noticed desk 17 or 18 had just councillor next to it. Now, what if someone moves or isn't sat in their seat, and are you going to keep an eye on that, Graham? Thank you.
I'll just remind you, we are back in session, so can I ask councillors to stand up when they're addressing questions? Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. I was just going to respond to comments from Councillor Sawyer and Councillor Wood. I understand what you're saying, and I think it's in principle, Councillor Sawyer, I think it's a good idea for every vote to be transparent, but we've had several votes today already, so the vote on the Councillor Bailey's motion about the Tamil was unanimous. So I think the chair could see from his point of view that it was unnecessary to kind of find who it to see how everybody voted. Every time you do that system, it takes another 20 seconds, which adds up over time when you add on the clarifications and so on. Voting on the minutes, I think it would be quite unusual for voting on the minutes to require a recorded vote that a member of the public was going to be kind of seeking out whether or not we'd voted on the minutes. And quite a lot of the votes we take are, I'm happy to say, consensual. So I think the point of this is for the chair to try to discern when the vote is going to be either close or contentious, so that a record can be taken. So there might be some issues where people have a word with the chairman before and say, I particularly want that vote to be use the button system because I want the residents in my ward to know exactly how I voted. But generally speaking, the more consensus we have, the less time we would have to spend with the buttons. But I know that we've got motions perhaps later on in this meeting where it would be relatively close, and the system counts it better, notwithstanding sabotage. The system counts it more accurately every time than tired officers at 5:30 on a Thursday afternoon. Coming to Paul Wood, I'd like you to correct you, Councillor Wood. In my time, since 2015, it hasn't been contentious, the buttons, whether or not they were counted or not. The reason that we stopped using the button system is because people voted the wrong way. There was a vote on the chair of council, which in my opinion should have been a secret ballot, but people voted using the button system, and the leader at the time thought that people had voted the wrong way and wanted to get back to a time where everybody puts their hands up. I think that when we use this system, I think putting your hands up to say you voted one way or the other is also a handy thing for people to spot, but you'll get caught out when the list is published anyway. So if the leader of the administration or the leader of the opposition or the leader of any particular group wants to check up on how their individual people voted, this system provides that information, and that's why it was abandoned in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sawyer, you have already spoken, but that was outside the meeting. Do you wish to speak again?
Please, Chairman. I certainly take Councillor Baxter's point about unanimous votes, but given the time we often spend on debates, the time spent in carrying out a vote is insignificant in comparison. I'd repeat, I would like to see, if possible, all votes being recorded using this system.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gill.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for doing the demo, by the way. That was very useful. We actually saw 2 demos when we did the demo there. We had one demo going back to how the system was several years ago, before one of the previous leaders, Matthew Lee, requested that it be changed to a show of hands, which I think was the purpose of that was transparency, actually. I think that was done for the right reasons. And then we saw a different demo whereby our names were on screen, and it was gold, red and yellow, depending on how people voted. Now, I've got to say, I think that the change that Matthew implemented all those years ago, moving to, it did change the dynamic of the meeting. It's much more transparent. We get a lot of back-to-back votes. We get a lot of back-to-back votes where there's somebody making an amendment, and then they amend an amendment, and then they amend an amendment, and then you get a back-to-back vote, and you get a very open and transparent dynamic when you're showing hands. What I would say is, if you don't know until the following day or later who changed the dynamic in the meeting, I think that changes our meeting, and I think it was an improvement. Now, I'll qualify that. The second demo achieves both. It achieves the efficiency. It allows everyone to see what we're seeing. So, what demo we voted, it seems that the papers suggest we're voting for the first demo, going back to the previous meeting, whereby the structure of the meeting was totally different, much more controlled, and I can't support that, because that is a less transparent meeting, and we don't know what's happening. However, the second demo, where things are being recorded, and we're seeing where the changes are from, strikes me as being both efficient and allows us to not alter the dynamic of the meeting. I would also echo Councillor Sawyer's opinion that as many things as possible should be recorded and in the public domain, even if it just adds a few seconds. I would absolutely echo that. But yeah, I can't support it as it is unless we go for that second demo with our names on screen and everything as clear. So, although I'm not going to amend it myself, I'd be happy if somebody were to amend that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knowles.
Yes, thank you. The motion as it stands does not decide which method we would use. All it does at the moment is give permission for the council to use the method, and it describes the chairman as being the person responsible for deciding when we use that method and when we don't use that method. So all this is asking you at the moment is just to give your permission or to give your agreement that we should acknowledge the system in the Constitution so that we may use it. Any further details about how it's used or when it's used could be had in a scrutiny committee or at another source, but at the moment the question is, are we giving ourselves permission to use the electronic system? And I would ask you to vote on that, and that only at this stage. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Jewell, if you want to come back on that one.
I know exactly what Councillor Knowles is trying to do, and he's doing it for the right reasons, but I would like it to specify that second one and not put the chairman and future chairman in invidious positions where they have the choice. If we're going to do this, do it properly. If not, I would not like to stunt the debate that we had in here, which is what we used to have under the previous regime, and as I say, the changes were made for the right reasons as a result. Thank you. be changed to specify the version of the second demo that we viewed, if you want to give that a name. Thank you.
Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I genuinely thank Councillor Knowles for that very clear clarification that he just gave. It was very clear. This is simply a call to move on and to move to a wider debate about the specifics. That debate will obviously take its course. I've got to push back gently on what Councillor Gill has just said about putting chair people in invidious positions. That's what chair people are there for, to make those type of decisions. You know, if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. As simple as that. And I would actually move that the question is put, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I have to offer you the right to sum up, Councillor Knowles, if you want. I realise you did just speak, but if you wish to sum up and make another statement, I will allow that, and then we'll go to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. To sum up, I will be repeating what I've just said, and I don't think there's any need in that. I would ask you to support the motion. We can take any details forward as we go forward in the future. So I would ask for support for this particular motion, then I can move on to item 2.
Thank you, Councillor. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a vote on item 1. I won't read it out again. Those in favour, please raise your hands. Any against? And abstentions, please. Yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The motion is carried, and we're now going to move on to item 2 of this amendment. Councillor Knowles, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Again, it should be quite simple. The Governance and Audit Committee have decided in their wisdom that they should take advice from an external independent source in their meetings, and this is just to confirm in the Constitution that these people would not have a vote on that. So they're excluded from having a vote in those meetings, so that their advice could be listened to, but they could not vote on that advice. And that is quite simply it. Thank you. And I ask for your support.
Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Bishno Singh. There's no one put forward for debate, so I'm going to go straight to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Yes. And against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Moving swiftly on to agenda item 7, the establishment of the District Joint Committee for the Greater Lincolnshire Mayoral Combined County Authority. I am going to not read this out to you, ladies and gentlemen. You can all read, it's in front of you. So if you could just cast your eyes over that. I then think it's Councillor, who's proposing this, Councillor Baxter. Thank you, Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues. The statutory instrument for the Mayoral Combined County Authority for Greater Lincolnshire is scheduled to be laid before Parliament next week. If passed and receiving royal assent, a new layer of local government for Greater Lincolnshire will be introduced with specific funds and powers as set out in the devolution deal with the government. That argument has been had. It's gone on over many years, but the devolution decision by government was supported by the outgoing Conservative government, supported by the incoming Labour government. That decision has now been made. We don't need to go over the ground of whether or not Lincolnshire wants a mayor. It seems we don't, but the government does. We don't need to go over the other bits and pieces. We're now talking about the mechanics of how the mayoral combined county authority will work. It's anticipated that the first meeting of the mayoral combined county authority board will be held early next year, with elections for an elected mayor scheduled to be held on the 1st of May 2025, the same date as the county council elections. If you're interested in becoming the mayor of Lincolnshire, please, I guess, speak to the chief executive or speak to somebody. I won't stand in anybody's way if they wish to be mayor of Lincolnshire. They're coming out already. So the mayoral combined county authority board consists of Lincolnshire County Council, North East Lincolnshire County Council, North East Lincolnshire Council and North Lincolnshire Council. These are constituent members. They would call themselves upper tier authorities, and as constituent members, they will each have 3 members appointed onto the board. The 7 district councils in Lincolnshire are known as non-constituent members. We would not be described by those people as upper tier authorities and have less access to the table. Collectively, the districts, the 7 districts, have 4 members appointed onto the board. That's 4 in total, not 4 per district. And as non-constituent members, district council members will not have the same voting rights as constituent members. I'd like to give you, at this point, specific details of how the constitution of the Mayoral Combined Authority Board will operate. But sadly, that constitution has not yet been released by those writing it, mainly the county council. One of the reasons for not releasing it is that we had a general election, and during that general election they weren't sure that the devolution thing was going to go ahead, so kind of stopped work for a bit and everybody was busy with other electoral things. But since then, I'm told, people have been working hard to get the constitution together. I think it's astonishing and disappointing that just weeks before this mayoral combined authority is going to hit the ground, is going to start moving, we don't yet have a copy of the broader constitution. However, this agenda item is not about the constitution of the mayoral combined authority. This is about the district joint committee. That's the committee for the 7 districts, and how they operate and how we as district councils hold ourselves together. The terms of reference and standing orders for the joint committee are appended to this report, and all district councils in Lincolnshire have either already taken a decision, as is the case in West Lindsey, North Kesteven and Boston, or will very shortly be doing so. By agreeing to this joint committee, South Kesteven is ensuring that we have a seat at the table and the opportunity to directly engage with the mayoral combined county authority. If we don't agree to these terms and conditions, we are effectively ruling ourselves out of the process. I do want to draw your attention to a typo, it's still in there, a typo about the words biennial and biannual. It says that the chair of the Joint District Committee will be appointed for 2 years, but it then says will be re-elected biannually. It means biennially. It's not every 6 months, it's every 2 years. And I think the officers at the district councils have collectively agreed that it's biennially, not biannually. So,
you're out of time, Councillor, but I will permit you to carry on because what you're saying is very important, so please do.
Thank you. You're very generous. The only point I've got left on here is to say that when the Mayoral Combined Authority is established and running, it's inevitable that local government reorganisation will come following behind, and that's our whole different kettle of fish. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If I'd realised you'd only got that, I wouldn't have said anything. I apologise. Do we have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Steptoe, thank you. Do you want to speak now, Councillor Steptoe?
Can I reserve my right to speak, please?
Absolutely, Councillor Steptoe. So, over to the Council. If anyone wants to speak, press your button, please. Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. As the leader said, what we're being asked to do today is to sign up to a joint committee, or establishment of a joint committee of all 7 district councils as part of the new combined mayoral authority for so-called Greater Lincolnshire. I do find it a little bizarre that, as the report says, the initial purpose of such a joint committee is to work out between the 7 districts how they're going to fight for the 4 seats as non-constituent members with less voting rights as the so-called upper tiers. I will be voting for the recommendation, but I do wish to record my concerns about the whole ongoing process of so-called devolution, and what's being created is yet another tier of local government. Devolution, in particular this deal, is still being claimed as a means to put local people more in control of the decisions that affect their lives. So I do find it bizarre, if not ironic, that the local people of South Kesteven were not given a democratic vote even on whether they wish a new combined mayoral authority should be created to serve from the Humber to the Wash, from Barton on Humber to Bourne, from Grimsby to Grantham. Some of us will recall the last time the idea of a combined mayoral authority was mooted some years ago, when this council firmly voted against, effectively vetoing the process. This time round, districts weren't allowed a veto. What a surprise. In fairness, there was a consultation, and it's worth noting that of those residents that expressed a preference in every district of Lincolnshire, including South Kesteven, the majority said they were against the idea of a mayor. They don't want it. At a county council brief, but we're having one anyway, at a county council briefing last week, I was astonished to be told that the best thing about having a mayor for the Greater Lincolnshire is that it's going to provide a direct link to government ministers. I thought that's what we elected MPs for. At the briefing, various speakers were very excited that as part of the agreement to create this new mayoral combined authority, Greater Lincolnshire will be receiving £24 million a year in extra government grants for the next 30 years. Personally, I don't think we need a mayor to tell us how to spend that, and if that's money that we should have had anyway, why haven't we got it? Some might think 24 million is a relatively small, is a big bung, but in relation to the county council's current budget, which is in excess of 600 million a year, excluding schools, I think it's fair to say it's a relatively small amount. And bear in mind, this follows 14 years during which Lincolnshire County Council's core spending power has been reduced by 40%, almost half. We're where we are. We have to move forward. The ship has sailed. I accept that. I'm not very happy, though, that we're still going to have a mayor for the whole of Greater Lincolnshire who's going to have tax-raising powers. I raised that at the county council, and I was assured, don't worry, they won't use them. Well, let's wait and see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe we have enough local government as it is. We don't need more. Some would say we've got too much as it is. On that basis alone, I'll be voting against this. That's the only way I can see of indicating my disagreement with it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dobson.
No, I'm sorry, not pressed. I didn't press it. Sorry.
I'm now getting a spread of councillors who want to speak, and that is all really welcome you to do that. But if I can just remind you, this is not a motion talking about the establishment of the mayor. It's about whether or not we take a place at this particular table. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not in favour of more local government, but I did accept the deal. On balance, it was a decent thing. I'm not going to talk about that. Oh, sorry. So basically, yes, we are where we are. And as Councillor Baxter says, we are where we are. That deal's been done. We're going to get them there. So we're now talking about this. And I think, again, on balance, obviously we've got the upper tiers, Lincolnshire County Council, the two other unitaries that are the main tiers in this. If we're not careful, we're going to be left out of it. So having thought about it, I'm not in favour of extra layers, but I think this is a probably must, and I will be voting for it because I think it gives us a say. I think if we don't have something like this, we are going to be totally left out of it. I mean, we're pretty much left out of it now as a district, and the counties and the unitaries are going to control it. So, to sum up really, yes, on balance, I'm going to vote it and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Chairman. I largely agree with what has been said so far. It is really important, actually, that district councils talk to each other and they work as collaboratively as they possibly can. There's a lot to be gained from doing that, especially in the context that it is often forgotten that of the 7 districts mentioned in the document, we are the largest in population. We are the largest. Lincoln is actually only 4th by comparison, if you were to put the league table of 7 together. And so it is actually important that we are part of a forum where we are making our voice heard, especially as we are at one end of what is now being called Greater Lincolnshire. We are on the edge of it, geographically. Let's hope it's only geographically, and therefore I would not only urge people to vote for this, because all collaboration in this sense and all cooperation is good, but also to encourage those people who sit on it to put our case forward strongly and forcefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. I'm going to withdraw because my points have been made. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gill.
Okay, thank you. So I never thought I'd be standing here complimenting the work of Angela Rayner, but here goes. The Labour Party in government has looked at the work that the Conservative Party has done on this. Sorry, is that your phone? She looked at the work that the Labour Party has done on this and has decided to build upon the work that the Conservatives have delivered in trying to bring people together and move decisions to a more local area. The Conservatives invested in areas such as Manchester, invested heavily in Labour-controlled Manchester to move decision-making back towards local people. So credit where credit is due. The Labour Party accepted in full and have built upon Conservative work in devolution. And it is interesting to see the 2 parties of government in this country working together to move decision-making back to local areas. So, turning to this district committee, and on our side we discussed this at length, this is a free vote. I am a supporter, a strong supporter of the work that both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party have done in moving decision-making back to Lincolnshire. But I'm unclear really what the role of this district committee has. It is not part of the devolution deal. In fact, as already been said, the Constitution hasn't even been released yet. Therefore, I find myself in strange alignment with Marion Overton, the leader of the Lincolnshire Independents, who said, is this putting the cart before the horse? We don't know whether this is the right thing. There already is a committee of leaders and chief executives in Lincolnshire. With no constitution, should we be doing this or should we be waiting for the constitution? So, whilst I'm not entirely sure that this is the right thing or the wrong thing to do, I think it's the wrong timing. So I'm going to withhold my support for this until we have a constitution. But I recognise there are strong voices on both sides. Some saying it's a good idea, some saying get ahead of the decision. Some people like Marion Overton saying don't get ahead of the decision. Some people like Lee Steptoe saying get ahead of the decision. And I'm not going to support this at this stage, but I recognise that it's being done for the right reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Gill, for your warm words about my party and the government. I feel as if I need to lay down after hearing them, but thank you anyway. Just really quickly, because this is a done deal, as people have said. but just to put my own, and I will be very quick on this, my own personal position, just to restate it. I've had reservations about this from the word go. Major reservations. They're on public record in the spring when I questioned these proposals that were being put forward under a Tory government at the time, fully hoping, of course, that a Labour government was imminent, and also fully aware that they would very much continue with what the Tory government was doing under this so-called devolution. So my own opinion has been on public record for some months. To me, and again I'm repeating what I said in the spring, devolution is totally an inappropriate name for what's happening here. Devolution is getting government down to the lowest layer possible, closest to local people. This does the precise opposite. Councillor Baxter and other councillors have said today a mayorship, which is a done deal, will ultimately see major local government reorganisation. Can't see that happening in this Parliament, but can certainly see it happening in the next 8, 9, 10 years, whether it's a Tory Prime Minister or a Labour Prime Minister in 8 or 9 years' time. That will almost certainly mean the abolition of Lincolnshire County Council and the districts. It will almost certainly mean the creation of a number of so-called supersized unitary authorities. That isn't bringing local government down to the lowest level. That's doing the opposite. So, going back to Councillor Gill, he's absolutely right. Okay? The Labour government has built on what the previous Tory government did. And you can probably read into what I've just said, my own personal feelings on that. But colleagues, it's going to happen. It's a done deal. This is about a seat at the table. No, if SK did not have a seat at the table, that would be absolutely disastrous for the people of our district. So, of course, I'm going to vote in favour of this today on that basis. And anybody that votes against today, or indeed anybody that sits on their hands because they've messed the buttons up, okay, will have no say at all on that basis. And frankly, you will have been warned.
Thank you, Councillor. Would you like to sum up, Councillor Baxter, please?
Yes, thank you for all your contributions across the chamber. Districts can work together, and currently we're in I think an unheard of situation where the 7 districts are split, three led by Conservative administrations, 1 by Labour, 1 by the Lib Dems, and 2 by Independents. So at the moment it's 3 Tory, 4 other. However, that's not what we talk about when we get together as districts. It's not a party political thing. What we talk about when we're with districts is how we are treated by the upper tier authorities, how we're treated by the county and North Lincolnshire and so on. And that's where the political divide is. I think you're absolutely right, Councillor Steptoe. This will be at the end of counties and districts in Lincolnshire as we know it, although we also know that everything in local government takes ages. So I think we'll be safe until the next SKDC elections, although that might be famous last words. So terms and conditions apply. We have to look at what's on the papers in front of us with no more chance of changing that at this point than changing your paragraph 4 of your BT broadband contract. This is what's on offer. So I don't like the mayoral situation either. I don't like the fact that there's no constitution on the table yet. I do need to mention that there are 20 subcommittee places to be filled as well by the district councils, and they are shared among the 7 district councils. So instead of 7 fighting for 4, it will be 7 fighting for 20. So that will be another conversation to have. But at this point, in the same way as I don't like the way that we elect our UK government, I don't like the first past the post system. I think it's flawed, and I think there are better systems available. I still participate because that's the only vote available to us. So please hold your noses and vote in favour of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll now go to the vote. Which councillors will be by show of hands, and for the rest of the meeting as well. So those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against? Any abstentions? Thank you, councillors. That was carried. We are now going to go to agenda item 8, which is members' open questions. Members may ask one question only with no preamble or supplementary, which may be addressed to one of the following: the leader, cabinet members, the chair and vice chair of overview and scrutiny committees, and the opposition group leader. The session may last up to 45 minutes. Please join the queue to speak by pressing the button on your microphone. I'll call members out in the order in which they appear on my list. I expect you to put your question straight away. If you do not, I will direct you to move to your question. If, after being instructed, you do not move straight to your question, your microphone will be turned off and I will move to the next person in the queue. There is no right to reply, the making of statements or entering into debate. Councillor Whittington, you have the floor, sir.
Leader or to the Deputy Leader as the portfolio holder for leisure. It's really just to get an update on where we are with the Deepings Leisure Centre, because obviously the County Council voted some time ago to make some funding available, and this Council reciprocated with a similar amount some time ago as well, and everything seems to have gone rather quiet at the moment. So really it's just to get an update as to where we are regarding progress. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Is this you, Councillor Stokes, or is it Councillor Baxter?
I'll do that. Councillor Mann is in her capacity of the Deeping CIC will also be quite happy to talk to you later, Councillor Whittington. But at this point in time, we are still awaiting news and the opportunities with the community fund, as far as I'm aware.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sawyer.
Through you, of course, to the leader in his finance capacity. Is the spending of £50,000 or nearly £50,000 on external solicitors really the best way of dealing with code of conduct complaints made by councillors against their fellow councillors?
Councillor.
Thank you for the question. I certainly would prefer that we hadn't spent that amount of money on these complaints. However, before the election, we didn't have a standards committee. We didn't have a process. We now have a process. We are following the process for dealing with member complaints. Unless an informal resolution can be found to such complaints, then it's in the hands of the statutory officers to ensure that justice is done, so to speak. Certainly wouldn't be my place as leader to interfere in a process about member behaviour, other than to gently remind members that this is costing money. As you all know, because I've emailed you all, I have tried to get the various people who are either subject or complainants in a room together. As you know, we have an unprecedented number of complaints from both sides of the chamber. As I understand it, those that are going to try to a hearing as I understand it, only one complaint from the administration side of the chamber is going to a hearing. I think all the others are in response to complaints from the coalition side. So, yeah, it's dreadful. It's an absolute waste of public money, and I've asked that people withdraw the comments which have caused offence or caused consternation. That would be very easy for all of those people involved to do, but I feel that the members I've spoken to on my side are only prepared to do that as a kind of a settlement that involves everybody. So it's multilateral disarmament, if you like, that if everybody stands down, then I'm sure that everybody on my side would stand down their posts. But this is where we are. So I entirely sympathise. I think it's a waste of money, but it is a process, and we are obliged to follow process. If we didn't follow process, where would we be?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. This is a question for Councillor Rees-Baker, Cabinet Member for Environment. There have been a number of serious concerns regarding bins on the streets, fly tipping, leading to concerns regarding pedestrian safety and environmental issues in Grantham Town Centre. I was delighted to attend a joint meeting with officers and other members who committed a joint approach to providing targeted campaign to address these issues, and thank you for your support. However, moving forward, can you provide a real commitment to treating this as an absolute priority, providing the resources and working with other agencies required to make the improvements needed for the quality of life and the safety of the residents affected? Thank you.
Councillor Baker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And through you, thank you, Councillor Morgan. I would turn around, but then you lose the speaker. I'm delighted that the meeting was constructive, and this was echoed by all of the officers involved. And I'm also thankful for the ongoing communication from Grantham councils of all stripes, raising issues that perhaps might be localised to their particular ward, streets, or even block of flats that aren't replicated quite so much across the district. We absolutely do not want a one-size-fits-all approach, and we do need the local input from representatives such as Councillors Harrison, Morgan and Ellis at this meeting, via email from Councillor Steptoe last night, or through a mix of both from Councillor Bailey over the last week or so. I would want to really reiterate my commitment to this, and I think setting aside officer time to ensure that these issues are discussed, and the issues are discussed fully and appropriately, demonstrates that commitment to finding a bespoke solution and figuring out how bins on narrower streets, fly tipping, litter, sack collections, how these can be addressed. Not all of these are directly within our control, because things like littering relies on people exerting a little bit of public civic responsibility in putting the right thing in the right bin. Obviously, we've spoken at length, colleagues, about my disgust of the waste of ratepayers' money having to clean up after criminals and gangs with fly tipping, which remains an absolute blight, particularly on our rural county and our SKDC borders. So I'm absolutely grateful for the opportunity to reiterate my commitment to Councillor Morgan and to Grantham residents. We have agreed a multi-agency approach. Staff from Waste, Street Scene and Environmental Protection will work together on these issues. I've already had an update from the Head of Service this morning and have scheduled further discussions for next week. Our first priority is organising a community event where we will invite the community to discuss problems, views, perhaps offer solutions, both from the community and our community leaders at all levels. What has been a particular boon as well is that I'm delighted to confirm that Lincolnshire County Council have also agreed to be involved. Their help will make eradicating many of these issues far easier. So I will keep Councillor Morgan updated, I'll keep Grantham councillors updated, and I will keep the Chamber updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Councillor Steptoe. As you'll be aware, Councillor Steptoe, I sit on the Housing Scrutiny Committee, and I've been critical of housing performance, particularly in relation to such areas as voids, homelessness, repairs and tenancy. My purpose of being critical is to try and improve performance. My question to you, Councillor Steptoe, is will you explain to the Council how you will actively scrutinise housing and not just rubber stamp reports and refuse to let items go on the agenda?
Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, nothing has been denied on the agenda. Councillor Wood, as is probably well known, chose to leave the Housing OSC meeting last week. The voids, which is a really important issue, of course it is, was discussed literally a few minutes later under KPIs. Councillor Wood has been asked several times, both via email and verbally, by Alison Hall-Wright to specify the information that he has been looking for. Until the day of the meeting last Thursday, he repeatedly failed to do that. So, as Councillor Wood is well aware, the monitoring officer is. I have his full confidence and support that I have done nothing wrong and that I have followed council procedure at all times. I would gently suggest to Councillor Wood that from now on he stays in the Housing OSC meetings rather than flouncing out and making himself look rather silly.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Green.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to direct my question to your Vice Chair, Councillor Selby, in his capacity as the Environment Chairman. No doubt, Ian, you will have read in the press that National Highways are planning rolling nighttime lane closures for resurfacing of the A1 up from South Witham to Little Ponton in my ward. Now, you're a son of that area before me, Bob Adams along the way. You used to represent that area as well. Do you agree with me that we should be picking up the phone to National Highways and coordinating, finally, litter collection from the verge sides? We've got the £60,000 reserve that's ready and raring to go. As far as I'm aware, a penny hasn't yet been spent from it. I and other ward members have identified particular grot spots so we can triage and focus our efforts. Do you believe we should crack on, pick up that phone, reach out, engage? It's from mid-January to March. Shall we get on with it and seize the opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Selby.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Green, for the question. I'm flattered that you're asking for my opinion on this. The A1, as we know, treacherous stretch of road is getting now. Accidents nearly every day. You know, so anything we can do to help, you know, address the situation. So there's the one that you're particularly asking. Let's look at it. If you want to bring that forward again to the Environment Committee, absolutely, the agenda's there, welcome for you. So I'll say to you, bring it forward to the agenda, for the agenda, and yeah, we'll discuss it again. If you're happy with that.
Thank you, Councillor Selby. Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Chairman. My question goes to Councillor Paul Stokes. Back in the summer edition of SK Today, on the back it states family activities on offer across the district. Well, apparently across the district only includes Grantham and Stamford. Where is it for children for Bourne and for the Deepings? Why are we getting forgotten again? Thank you.
Councillor Stokes.
Well, certainly Bourne isn't forgotten. As a Brunyan, I wouldn't allow that anyway. So, with working at Stamford and Grantham, we've worked very, very closely with the town councils and other organisations. And I think I'd just say that I'd welcome thoughts, ideas, communication from Bourne Town Council and the Deepings councils, and gladly we'll work and try to work with them to produce something for the towns. But it needs the enthusiasm of the town councils to work with us.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. This is to Councillor Dilts in his capacity as Cabinet Member for Planning. He'll be aware of the decision of the Planning Committee regarding the A1-A52 junction and today's exhibition regarding an enormous potential development on the other side of the junction in Barrowby. Yesterday, the COO of Vistry Group, which is the company behind these, was axed. The company has issued 2 profit warnings following a £165 million drop in profits, and the share price has halved in the last month. How concerned is he that not only are Vistry causing issues, let's say, with residents in terms of infrastructure, but their behaviour as a firm is seriously threatening jobs, housing supply and our local plan in the long term?
Councillor Dilks.
Yes, thank you for the question. I'm aware, of course, of the news that's broken in the last 24 hours about Vistry Homes. I have to say it would be premature and wholly inappropriate to speculate on what's happening with the company. As I say, on news it only broke yesterday. But on your wider point, you know, we'll always review, you know, how we do things, and we will keep an eye on it. Thank you.
Do you have a point of order, Councillor Morgan? Information?
Who an applicant is not a material consideration in planning, and I think it's important to make that point.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is to Councillor Stokes. I see in next week's agenda for the Finance Committee that Grantham Town Football Club are being awarded, have been awarded over £100,000 worth of repairs. In every meaningful sense, this is a capital subsidy to Grantham Town Football Club. How does the Council intend to similarly support our other football clubs across the district, including Harrowby United, Bourne Town, Stamford Town and the Deeping Rangers?
Councillor Stokes.
Sorry. I think actually the money is actually being awarded to repairs of the stadium, not to Grantham Town Football Club.
We see in relation to the previous question a possible conflict. I am a member of the Grantham Town Sports Club, so that potentially, I just want everybody to be aware of that. Obviously, in view of the question that's just been asked.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's okay, Councillor Whittington, and the reason why I missed you then was I was actually asking my Vice Chair if you'd already asked a question, but you pushed your button. Thank you for that. Thank you for your answer. Councillor Geel.
Thank you. Question to the Leader of the Council. So an FOI request revealed that this Council has spent £47,000 on external investigations into complaints against a small number of councillors. There has not, in my view, been any leadership in trying to resolve this from the administration until the last few days. And hearings, as he knows, could cost a further £60,000 if they go ahead. Now, as he knows, I have suggested a resolution of this, a 4-point resolution. 1, the deletion of offending material deemed a breach of the Council Code of Conduct by independent external regulators. 2, publication of the reports produced at a cost of over £47,000 by independent external solicitors, so that we can read the case law and the detail behind the 14 Code of Conduct breaches that have been upheld by the external investigators. 3, dropping of all complaints against officers raised by complainants or defendants of the 63 Code of Conduct complaints that there have been this year. I think these complaints are wrong. Officers have been working through an impossible job, extremely professionally, and there is no place for this behaviour. And point 4, compliance with outside authorities or ongoing criminal investigations, because the damage done to the reputation of this council should not be increased. So my question to Councillor Baxter is, what are the specific reasons these have not been accepted? I don't believe this is a negotiation. We just need to do the right thing and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you for your question. Well, actually, no thank you for your question. You sent me this information, you sent me this exact same text by email yesterday. I have replied to you. So if we're reading out each other's emails, I'll remind you of what I've said to you by email already. Hello, Graham. Thank you for your emails. I would like to ask you to respect the advice of the monitoring officer that he sent on the 15th of November as follows. The monitoring officer. I would like to remind all councillors that details relating to these Code of Conduct
Point of information, yes, Councillor Gill.
My question has been squared with the monitoring officer, so there is nothing in my question that is not in the public domain. Thank you.
Would you like to continue, Councillor?
Yes. So we have been advised by the monitoring officer that these complaints are still confidential. They are ongoing live investigations. In your emails to me, you have suggested that I know, first of all, what the complaints are specifically, and secondly, what the result of the investigations are. I can tell you that I don't know either. It wouldn't be appropriate for the monitoring officer to give me that information because it is a confidential process. I don't know how you, other than the complaints that you personally have put in against members of the administration, I don't know how you know the details of the other complaints, which are confidential. So, you talked about the lack of leadership on this issue, and you've bravely offered some what you call leadership over these last few hours. I refer you to my email to you of June, I think the 11th of June or sometime around there, when I suggested that everybody involved withdraw the posts that other people have found offensive, and in some cases those posts are also inaccurate. I'm not going to go as far as to say lies, but many of those posts are inaccurate. People have found them offensive, and the decent thing for people to do would be to remove those specific posts. And if everybody did it, then everybody else would do it. And that was what was offered in June before we'd spent this amount of money on the process. So, quite frankly, if you want to save money on the... No, actually, I'm not going to say anything else. I think I've answered the question.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillors. One final question is from Councillor Selby.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. I hope we're going to finish these questions on a positive note, on a good note. My question is to Councillor Ashley Baxter, Leader of the Council. On my tie today, Councillor Baxter, is the club badge of Deeping Rangers Football Club. Would you kindly join me in congratulating Deeping Rangers Football Club, who won this year's South Kesteven Charity Cup. Also this year we raised £2,000 for local charities, so a big thank you to all that took part and our sponsors, and a special thank you to our committee members that helped out: Graham Cow, David Berlin, Nicky Cow, Councillor Elvis Stuck. This year's tournament was dedicated to the late Mick Basingham, a former employee of this council, who many people will have known very well indeed, and they will remember Mick very well, very fondly indeed as well. Thank you.
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. Yes, of course. I'm happy. I'm happy to celebrate the victory of Deeping Rangers across the South Kesteven Charity Cup. Apologies to any paid-up members of Grantham Town Supporters Club or any of the other loser towns in the competition. Delighted for Deeping Rangers, but also delighted that your initiative of the South Kesteven Charity Cup continues to go from strength to strength. And the amount of work that you put into it should not be underestimated. It's in addition, over and above your work as a councillor. And I think that people underestimate how much work is involved in sport. I've been I say involved in sport. That's very loose. I've had 2 daughters that are involved in sport, one as a gymnast and one as a swimmer. And the amount of time that I have to invest, or did have to invest before they grew up and moved away, as children do, the amount of time that parents invest in the children's sports is massive. But the amount of time that volunteers for football, for cricket, for gymnastics, for swimming, for all the other sports, the amount of time, and I know there's quite a few volunteers, sporting volunteers, Councillor Turner, Councillor Whittington, that have spent a lot of hours of their day watching other people playing sport and rather facilitating people playing sport. I take my hat off to the amount of time and effort that they put into it, especially if in Grantham they're going to end up losing in the competition. So, and also a word about Mick Massingham. It's very good of you to dedicate, or it's very good of the Southgate Charity Cup team to dedicate this year's tournament to a member of staff, and that also, as Ray was talking earlier about the SK Community Awards, we now have 2 awards that are dedicated to members of staff, the Neil Smith Beyond the Call of Duty Award and the Judy Smith Lifetime Achievement Award. And I just think it's honourable that we honour the staff in this way. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, councillors. That is the end of members' open questions. I'd like to thank sincerely members who have asked questions and those who have provided answers to them. The more we talk together, the more progress we will make. I now want to move on to agenda item 9, which is a motion from Councillor Green. Councillor Green, I'm going to allow you to introduce and talk about your motion, if you would.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. Colleagues, I rise today to present an updated motion on pesticides, which I was unable to bring forward in September due to illness. Since then, I've carefully considered feedback, especially from councillors Rees-Baker and Knowles, whose insightful points I've incorporated. Their constructive, cross-party engagement has been refreshing and reminds us of what we can achieve when we work together. My sincere thanks to them both. The Pesticides Action Network have also supplied useful advice, and I'm delighted to say the charity, Butterfly Conservation, have endorsed this motion. It's a motion that calls for a pesticide elimination strategy by 2026, a plan for phasing out synthetic pesticides, including herbicides, from council land by 2028, all the way out in Councillor Selby's 9th term. It's not radical, it's thoughtful, actionable and sensitive to the challenges ahead. It's about safeguarding South Kesteven, ensuring our parks, playing fields and public spaces are safer for children, pets and wildlife alike. The risks of pesticides are well documented. Research links their use to cancers and other health conditions, particularly in children and animals who are more vulnerable. Globally, unintentional pesticide poisoning impacts 385 million people annually, with lives disrupted and families harmed. In South Kesteven, the risks may feel distant, but they are real. Think about a toddler playing on treated grass, or a dog exploring our parks, also sprayed. Their interactions with nature shouldn't come with hidden dangers. Beyond health risks, consider the changes we see in our natural world. Think about the summer we just lived through, or rather the silence of it. When was the last time you saw butterflies dancing in the sunlight, or heard the comforting hum of bees? What about the birds we grew up with? The cuckoo's call in spring, the skylark's song on a summer morning. These uplifting wonders are vanishing. Our hedgerows and fields feel emptier, quieter. We are living in a dying natural world, where the splashes of colour and bursts of song that once inspired us are becoming fading memories. Do we want to contribute to this decline, or do we want to be part of the solution? This motion is about stepping up. By tolerating a touch more wildness in our green spaces, letting plants like dandelions grow, we can support biodiversity. These plants aren't weeds, they're lifelines for pollinators. Moreover, reducing pesticide use saves money, a benefit every taxpayer and budget-conscious councillor can support. This motion doesn't impose, it starts a process. It calls on the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee to lead the development of this strategy with public consultation and cross-party collaboration, ensuring it reflects our community's needs. There's no need to amend or defer this motion to that committee. This motion explicitly empowers them to take a lead from the outset. So if anyone is thinking of it, withdraw that. To those who care about an environment, this is your moment to act. This motion marks the beginning of an important journey, one that will be guided by thoughtful, cross-party collaboration through the Environment Committee and Councillor Baker's leadership as the portfolio holder. We may not yet have all the answers, but this is a vital first step. Together, we can ask the right questions, explore viable solutions, and create a plan that reflects our shared commitment to the environment. Let's seize this opportunity to work together for a greener, safer, and healthier South Kesteven. I do wish to log where we stand on this with a recorded vote, and I implore Green colleagues to second this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for this? Thank you, Councillor Whittington. Do you wish to speak? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I must say,
thank you, Councillor.
First time to be greeted with hoots of derision from the administration group is rather disarming, Mr. Chairman. I do wish you could have a word with him about it.
Councillor, could you either second the motion or reserve the right to speak, please?
Just by respect, Mr. Chairman, and I wasn't treated with any respect there, so I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you very much indeed. I was rather hoping that this wasn't going to descend to this level, but I suspect that it is, given some of the the way in which I was greeted a few moments ago. Make a few points about this. This only affects about 7%. And Councillor Baxter, I can see you smirking from here. This has only 7% of our council land is actually going to be affected by this, because that's the only amount that's treated by pesticides. It's only a small amount, but I think one thing to state that this is a starting point to moving ourselves forward in the right direction. Councillor Green's also referred to the cost savings that this will bring. At a time when all council budgets are facing financial difficulties, in terms of the argument that other people might make that we actually need to use these pesticides, in South Kesteven we have very few problematic invasive species so this does make the elimination of these pesticides on our land a less complex and more achievable goal. I was going to make the point about cross-party, but in view of the way I've been treated, I probably will brush over that one, unfortunately. It's liable to bring some health and safety benefits, as Councillor Green has already said, for our children, our grandchildren, our pets, and our wildlife from reducing these harmful chemicals in public spaces. We'll also have an impact on improving our biodiversity targets as well. I think the motion also highlights the fact that our colleagues on the European continent seem to be making very good progress with this as well. Just finally, Councillor Green referred to bees in his speech. Bees are very important. The work that our farmers do, and I think all of us on this side of the chamber would stand in support of our farmers. The work that they do to feed this nation is very important. But of course, without bees doing the actual hard work of the pollination, we probably wouldn't have the food security that we do in this country. So I would, despite the titters and the smirks, encourage everybody around the chamber to support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor, for your measured contribution, as always. If I may say, from my perspective, I actually believe the response was not to your very good self, but to the fact that SC took minutes for a seconder to identify themselves. But that's as it may be. It is now time to move on. Councillor Baker.
I'm unfortunately unable to withdraw the amendment that I would like to move that I believe Mr Wellborn has to go up onto the screen. I understand the sentiment, I really do. But on behalf of this administration, I would like to move an amendment, the text of which is on the screen. This motion has inspired so much debate and discussion on an under-scrutinised issue, and I am grateful for this. I am delighted to have engaged so openly with Councillor Green and have done for, I think, Councillor Green, what are we, about 2 months in now to thrashing this back and forth. We've met in person, we've swapped case studies and suggestions by email, and we have worked constructively to rework the motion to maximise support. It is regrettable, Mr Chairman, that my health took quite an ill turn through prolonged brush with COVID, which kept me out of action for nearly 2 weeks. I feel that we are tantalisingly close to a bipartisan agreement, but we aren't quite there yet. I do not wish to make this an all or nothing vote, when there is clearly so much we agree on. As such, by voting to direct the motion to the Environment OSC, we avoid throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I am looking forward to discussing proposals that weed out any outdated practices that no longer serve us, and planting better ones in their place. This approach involves Councillor Ian Selby, Councillor Emma Baker, and the rest of a cross-party Environment Committee helping to refine these terms of reference at the scope of, and the reference of the scope of the motion from the outset. Strong leadership does not always mean having the right answers, but it does encourage asking the right questions. We want to maximise the time investigating the best possible questions and believe, given the highly technical nature of this topic, that the OSC is the most focused and appropriate forum for this. I am genuinely delighted the motion has been moved. And should the amended motion either be accepted directly or by vote in the chamber, I am delighted that Councillor Green has successfully focused attention, awareness and committee time on how we use pesticides across our rural district. It needs a discussion. As I have said to a number of colleagues over the last 10 days, motions are the lifeblood of this council and show how any ward councillor representing any resident can impact council policy. And I fully endorse Councillor Green's constructive approach to this motion. I invite my friends in this chamber, and I would genuinely hope that you can all feel comfortable to consider yourself friends, to imitate this approach with future motions, and I am certain that had we had that 2 weeks, we would have got this across the line in this chamber. We represent South Kesteven. Together, we do it better.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Knowles, do you wish to speak? Councillor Knowles?
I reserve the right.
Thank you, Councillor Knowles. I now need to pass to the Chief Exec, who needs to give us some information. I have got you down, Councillor Trotter.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just seek a further amendment to that amendment, Councillor Baker, because you've said delegate in the first sentence and Council doesn't delegate to a scrutiny committee. Can we refer to the scrutiny? So if you were happy to have that as an amendment, it's more appropriate because the delegation is to the Cabinet for policy change and decisions of the Council. Can I also...
Councillor Whittington said to me a number of months ago, yes, words do matter. I do apologise. Please use that terminology.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. And the next stage, Chairman, is does the proposer of the motion actually accept the amendment? Then we wouldn't need to go into a debate unless it is not accepted. Thank you.
So the question's over to you, Councillor Green. Do you accept the amendment?
There we are. I am aggrieved to see this. We had worked closely and collaboratively, and I think I held in my head the idea that I would be striding across the chamber at hopefully a positive conclusion to this vote to shake warmly Councillor Rees-Baker's hand. I'm afraid I cannot accept this because this represents severe dilution. It's a review, it's not a commitment to actually eliminate the pesticides. You'll notice that it deviates from the original motion in a substantial way because it removes the accountability and it removes the deadlines and it removes the idea of having a definite, distinctive strategy which moves towards pesticide elimination by a definite time of 2028. The timescales involved were generous, and I think, very sadly, it is worthy of comment to notice that on the other side we have no fewer than 3 current individuals, 3 current existing members who ran for the Green Party for Westminster, no less, proffering heavy dilution on this motion, which I'm sure in another context, in another world, they would have submitted themselves. It can't go without comment that it appears that within this chamber, the greater environmental rigour exists amongst the Conservatives.
Excuse me, Councillor. Point of order from Councillor Baxter.
Chair, I thought that you'd asked Councillor Green whether or not he would accept the amendment. That's a yes or a no answer, surely.
Though I might agree with that, I felt it was only fair to allow Councillor Green to. But as you're on your 5 minutes, you've got about 30 seconds left, Councillor Green, if you want to carry on and wind up, please.
Well, the leader was allowed to continue on past his allotted time on devolution, which was considered important. Is not the environment important equally? We have people looking on at us. We have the Pesticides Action Network, we have the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust, we have butterfly conservation as well. And dare I say, other Green Party members and the National Green Party, they will be looking on at this and shaking their heads in shame. No, I do not accept this.
Thank you, Councillor. We are now going to debate the amendment. So can you, if you wish to speak on this amendment, I will call you as Councillor Trotter. Please ask away, Councillor, and we'll determine it.
I believe in what Councillor Green just said. He said that the removal of the figure to have pesticide elimination strategy adopted by 2028. In his motion, I see it says here 2026. Did I get that wrong? Could you please tell me, Councillor Green?
Could you clarify that, Councillor Green?
Yes, so it's in effect a 2-step process, Councillor Kelly. So it's a year to write the strategy, which is in effect a plan, and then that plan would be enacted over the following 24 months, 2 years. So it gives us a generous time span actually to see this through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And at last, Councillor Trotter. Oh, sorry, you're coming back on that point, Councillor Kelly?
It's adopted by 26. If you adopt something, you do it immediately, don't you? Yes. You don't
I
wait
think we're
2
getting
years.
into debate now, Councillor Kelly. Thank you. Councillor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all the work that's been done, Councillor Green and Councillor Baker. It's much appreciated. I do agree with the amendment, but as I'm sat next to the chairman of the Rural Overview and Scrutiny Committee, I would ask, please, if we could include that committee on the discussion. As an individual and a rural councillor, I want to know a bit more, and I think it is well placed to go to the environment, and obviously the officers will be there and give us a bit more information on. Sorry. Yeah. Give us a bit more information from the officers, and also if if they don't feel too disgruntled, you know, if we could liaise with the rural community, the farmers who are doing all the work. I think it's really important. We need to bring them on board. They're having a pretty awful time at the moment. So please, that's what I would ask. So.
Thank you, Councillor. I need to bring in Karen for some information. Chief Exec.
Thank you, Chairman. There's been a proposal there for an amendment on the amendment which we're debating. So therefore, Councillor Baker, would you but consider that the Rural and Communities OSC is part of this discussion, or the other thing you may want to propose is a joint meeting of the two scrutiny committees to review this as part of your amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Baker.
Our greatest resource in this council are our officers, so I'm very cognisant of making sure of the most efficient use of officer time. I was remiss that I didn't consider that, and I'm so grateful that you've raised it, Councillor Trotter. Thank you so much. If Councillor Manterfield is content and Councillor Selby is content for this to come to a joint committee, just to keep things as efficient as possible, I'm more than happy to add that wording. If, however, that there is a very pressing, you would like to receive this separately, there's no such thing as too much scrutiny. I'm taking it from heads, but I think we need to have that on record.
So I'm assuming the amendment is amended. Yep. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much. I would actually, first of all, like to thank Councillor Ben Green for bringing this forward. It is hugely important. I have a very green, wildlife-friendly garden with no pesticides. And I was horrified this year to witness one wasp and one bee in my garden. And something is seriously going wrong with our environment when that happens. Only a few years ago, my buddleia was covered in bees. Something, as I said, is seriously going wrong. This is a move in the right direction. What I'd hate to see is that we end up with bun fights across the floor about who had the idea, who's taken it forward. I think we're all united that this is an important issue and it needs to be taken forward. I pick up your point regarding the plan that really is what you're after, and I think that is actually covered in this amendment. If we look at the paragraph beginning as part of this review, the stakeholder parties above will carefully and thoroughly consider new draft policies, consultations or policy amendments. That should lead to a plan. And I would like some, if I may ask, reassurance from Councillor Baker that is what we'd be seeking, because otherwise it is just words. And I think that, you know, you have a point. We do want action on this. I think it's extremely important that we've talked about farmers. We know that actually we've had some pesticides reintroduced since Brexit, which are hugely concerning. And I'd like to see those reversed. But as a council, we can lead by example and hopefully encourage others to do the same. So I would like to support this amendment because I think the more people who look at this, the more thoroughly we understand the local issues, because this is, a lot of this is from national policy, and what we're talking about here is getting local data, understanding cost implications, what it might require to implement this. I think there's nothing wrong in doing that, as long as we do it in a timely fashion and we end up with a good, solid plan at the end of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank Councillor Green for raising this issue and raising awareness of it. It is important to all of us, not just councillors, but of course all of our communities, that these difficult problems are understood and not left ignored. That's, of course, we're not suggesting that we leave it ignored. And I'd like to thank both Councillor Green and Councillor Baker for their great efforts to try and come to consensus about this. And I'll echo what Councillor Baker has said. I've said that hasn't taken place, and despite the good efforts of all concerned. I do support the amendment, and the reason for that is there is too much predetermination within the motion as it stands. The amendment is not a pro-pesticides amendment. I think the direction of travel on this issue is very clear. I don't think there is a great well of people who are in favour of using pesticides where they are not needed. That is not the issue. The issue is good governance and us making well-informed decisions based on proper scrutiny. And therefore, I would be happy to listen and read. I look forward to reading the outcomes of the joint scrutiny committees, and I'm sure that they will come up with something that I am able to support and meets the aspirations of all of us across the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we all accept, despite what's been sort of said, it's a serious subject. It deserves a full debate, with the benefit, in my view, of a detailed technical report from our officers, carefully researched, which outlines the pros and cons, how much of this stuff we use already or we don't, where we use it, what the alternatives are, what the cost implications and all the other implications are of what might or might not be proposed. And in my view, the best chance and the right place for that is in the overview and scrutiny process. Now, I've got no problem with Councillor Trotter, and that's already been, I think that's absolutely right to, for the joint, for the rural and communities OSC to be involved as well. Although I would say I'm assuming that if we use this stuff, the pesticides, it's actually used within the town, within Grantham, within Bourne, and I'd suggest within Deepings as well. But, I've got no problem with extending it to rural and communities. Far from what Councillor Green is saying, that this amendment is a dilution of debate, quite the opposite. If this goes through today, I will vote against it, this motion now. But I'd rather not vote against it. I'd rather hear the detailed arguments, within the scrutiny process, for the pros and the cons, and all, everything weighed up. And I would then, whatever they come up with, I'm going to be happy to consider, presumably at cabinet.
Sorry, excuse me, Councillor.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Green.
I'll finish.
And that was it. Time then, perhaps. I feel very strongly that what you've just described is all in the original motion. It's got the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee. It's got a commitment to public consultation where we dive into the costings, the exact parameters of which pesticides we want to be eliminating and when. The problem with the amendment is it's got no commitment to action.
Excuse me, Councillor. Yeah. I'm speaking. Thank you. You did make those points in your summing up, Councillor, so point of information went on a little bit longer than I wished. The next councillor on the list is Councillor Whittington. Thank you, Councillor Whittington.
Just to make it clear, Mr. Chairman, I am speaking to the amendment. Just so we're all clear about this, thank you. The problem with the amendment is it doesn't impose a time limit on this. It doesn't focus minds. We talk about the issue of predetermination was raised. Well, when we were discussing our net zero targets, we were quite able then to predetermine to a certain extent by imposing a deadline of 2030. And, and to a certain extent that was predetermined. The problem with this amendment is it takes away the date that is in the original amendment. The danger with this is it will end up in a long...
Excuse me, Councillor, is that point of information, Councillor Baker? Clarification, go for it.
If members will just view the final paragraph in red, it would be expected that the matter of synthetic pesticides be added to the joint OSC's work plan, and the matter is reviewed and investigated in a timely fashion, the schedule of which to be determined at the first viewing by these committees. As such, perhaps I haven't worded it particularly well, but there would be cast iron time limits put on as a point of this motion to be determined by that committee.
Councillor Whittington.
The danger is that this will end up as a talking shop, and in 2 or 3 years' time we'll still be here. The whole point of the original motion is that it does put a time limit in. it does focus minds. It focuses the minds of the officers. It focuses the minds of all of us as well. You know, and I reiterate the point. We were able to do this with our net zero target, and it has focused minds. And we are making very, very good progress towards that net zero target by 2030 because it's focused minds. I cannot support this amendment because my fear is this will just turn into an item that gets deferred, it becomes a talking shop, and we have no positive action. Meanwhile, these pesticides are going to continue destroying our environment. I'm afraid I cannot support it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knowles.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Some of which I want to say is already been said by other people. But I was going to respond to this in the first place, and I must go through some of those things. I commend Councillor Green for bringing the item to our attention. I commend him even more for changing it from the last time, because the last one that came, I was frankly appalled at what was on that piece of paper, because it said that the objective was to get consultation, then it said we immediately do this, that and the other, and then it finally came up with this idea that we somehow have a referendum on a binding referendum, and we run this district council by referendum. I'm very, very pleased to say he's had conversations with a variety of people, and he's come up with something that is far, far, far more acceptable than in that first attempt last time. Having said that, the big problem is, as Councillor Cleaver, I think, has said, is that it makes it so that we have made a decision, a very important decision, in this meeting about the outcome before we get the inquiry. And the outcome is very, very important. The outcome will be decided by 50 odd of us, or 40 or 50 of us here. All of us, I assume, absolutely full of knowledge about pesticides. I'm afraid not. There may be others like you who are full of knowledge about pesticides. There are some who have some knowledge of pesticides and the outcome. But there will be a lot of us, and I've spoken to people on both sides of the thing here, that don't know a lot about pesticides, and in particular artificial pesticides or whatever else like that. And to ask a body like this to come up with the conclusion and then say we will go back to the committee in order to do the details and so on, is putting the cart before the horse. The horse is the committee which should look at this, and I had down the Environment Committee, not the cart, which is this meeting. It comes back to this meeting as a well thought through, balanced judgment of what we think about pesticides. And I'm sure Mr. Whittingham's, Councillor Whittingham's fears about it going on and on and on, that is not the purpose, and that it...
My name is Whitting Tom.
All right.
Not Whitting Ham.
All right.
This is not the first time you've made a mistake.
Oh, big deal.
I'm really quite sick of it.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Councillor.
I assure you there was no offence in getting your name wrong. I get lots of people's names wrong. I'm frequent, anybody knows me, and Helen will tell you exactly that. So I do apologise if you're offended. However, there are a lot of people with different knowledge here, and we can't be expected to make detailed assumptions and detailed decisions that are very, very important based on lack of knowledge. We need the knowledge from the Environment Committee and any other committee with experts on, and so on. At the moment, we have a statement very lucidly put. I admire it, Ben, Councillor Green. Or Councillor Jones or Smith or whatever these days.
Councillor, please carry on without being facetious. Carry on, please.
I admire it. The one thing it doesn't do, it doesn't give a balanced view. It gives a view of a person that's passionate about something that's very important. It doesn't talk about alternatives. It doesn't talk about costs. It doesn't talk about lots of different things. And we should get that information before the people in this chamber now make a decision about what it is. This is not to put it in the long grass. This is not to negate anything that's in there. It will happen. You can get the feel of the meeting and you know it will happen, but it will happen in the right way, and that's scrutiny first and then the council. We don't send things from cabinet, decide them in cabinet and then say we'll send them out to scrutiny to have a look at it and make it. We do it the other way around. Everything goes to scrutiny, or pretty well everything goes to scrutiny before it comes to cabinet. So I urge you, all of us, to
accept this amendment so it goes to the proper source and it gets done properly. It is not a matter of kicking it in long grass. It is not a matter of trying to stop anything happening, which has been implied, that this will stop progress with regard to pesticides and our health and so on and so forth. It was just a matter of doing it in the correct way, in the correct manner and at the correct time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, I am very inclined to go to the vote because we're voting on the amendment. I've got Councillor Gill down next, so I'll gladly accept. But if I could ask other councillors on my list, could you consider whether or not you are adding to the debate? If you are not, could you remove yourselves? Councillor Gill?
Very interesting debate. I'm definitely going to be one of those people that's going to stand here and claim to have no knowledge of synthetic pesticides whatsoever, so I'm not going to add that element to the debate. It strikes me as the amendment and the original motion are actually similar in many ways, and that the only real objectionable difference is the lack of a timetable. Therefore, in an effort to move this forward, I want to propose a very minor amendment to this amendment to say that this review, which will conclude by the end of 2025, will include but not limited. Just to put a 1-year time frame on the fact that we're doing a review on some big questions. Sorry, in the middle sentence here, this review will include but not be limited to. This review, which will conclude by the end of 2025, will include but not be limited to. And I think we've then got a process whereby I think that the major aspiration is still achieved, and we have something that moves us forward in a manner that gives us deadlines and gives the officers deadlines to work towards. So I have nothing to add on synthetic pesticides because I don't know anything about synthetic pesticides, but I think that will give us a work plan that I think that we can all work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I also know nothing about pesticides. Councillor Baker, how do you feel about that amendment to the amendment?
I'm more than happy to accept that amendment. The initial text there was simply not to preempt the workload or prioritisation of the chairs of the respective committees.
Give me a moment, ladies and gentlemen. In that case, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move to the vote on, and we're voting on the amended amendment to the amendment. I'm going to pass over to Graham first. Oh. Councillor Green, even though I thought you'd done it, you have a right of reply on the amendment before we vote on it. If you feel like you've said all you need to, that's fine, but you have got the right to speak if you wish.
Unfortunately, I'm standing up again. I think what we needed to see was that injection of urgency and a definite timeline to focus minds. Now, what we hear about constantly, and we've seen it in other contexts, are deep worries about the climate and nature emergencies. We're obviously responding to net zero deadlines on fixed timescales. They're useful, we must do that. Having a deadline for this review, I think, is a positive step forward, which I would pragmatically accept, and it comports with that idea and that notion of emergency. Emergency means prompt, immediate action, and what I would strongly look forward to is this review, when it comes back in due course, and these facets have been considered, we can then move forward with a focused programme of gradual phased elimination as per the original spirit of this motion. I think Councillor Knowles and others in the chamber do themselves a profound disservice on this question of pesticides and the complexities. We can all go and do that research and even speak to those concerned residents that have had this at the forefront of their minds also. It's not insuperable to get to the bottom of this. We don't have to get lost in the weeds, pardon the pun. Totally possible to come to firm conclusions as to the way ahead. And we're not the first. Many, many other councils have also been down this road. We've got the Pesticides Action Network to liaise with and to speak to. So ultimately, although it's not what I would like to have seen in the first instance, I am happy to accept the amendment as it exists before us. Thank you.
that. We have to vote on the amendment and then we have to vote on the substantive motion. No? Oh, thank you. That's what I thought. So now, councillors, we're going to vote on the substantive motion, which Councillor Green has accepted, which is the one on the screen. If you are in favour, could you raise your hands, please? Against? Any abstentions? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Before I conclude the meeting, I would just like to take this opportunity to, and I'm sorry about this, but I can't help it. Councillor Bailey and I had a really interesting and most meaningful discussion about how one needs to celebrate Christmas. I invite you all round to go and have a look at Councillor Bailey's house, because apparently it is second to none in Grantham and has sent up the electricity charges, well, you just don't want to know. But I would like to wish you the best for the season that is approaching. We will not meet as a full council again till next year. A happy new year. And before you all start moving, you've got to wait till myself and my colleagues have gone. And also after this meeting, we can all stay and watch Councillor Stooke jumping out of an aeroplane if you so desire. The meeting is officially closed. Please be upstanding as the chair leaves.